Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny here with another update for you. I'm reading from Luke chapter 18, verse 7. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. We're continuing to look at Jubilee, at God's time to shine, this set of practices and concepts and ideas that are woven throughout the whole of Scripture, particularly in Jesus' life and ministry. And we have looked at Sabbath and abundance and celebration and forgiveness and liberation. And this week we talk about justice. And as I think about all of this, I think we can probably all agree that these are all good things. All those things I just named, Sabbath and abundance and celebration and forgiveness and liberation and justice. These are good things. It becomes more complicated when they become, when we kind of zoom in from afar, when we start to zoom in and it becomes a little more contextualized and becomes a little more personal and something that we are invited to incorporate more deeply into our life. So we know we need to rest. We know that rest is good, but to actually rest, that's a harder thing. When we talk about forgiveness, yes, of course, it's very good to forgive. It's good to be forgiven, but what do I actually need to be forgiven for? How do I receive that? How do I give forgiveness? Even when we talk about it being a slower process, a hard process, it still raises up in us questions and struggle. It's complex. It's not a simple thing to be forgiven or to forgive much of the time when we get to those really hard things. Liberation similarly, and with justice this week, I think this is one of those places where we use the word a lot. We talk about social justice or this is one of those places in the church that, unlike forgiveness, even though forgiveness is complicated and it's the hardest work I think we do as followers of Jesus, when we talk about justice, it becomes more controversial. We start to have very different ideas of what justice means and what it looks like and what the work of justice is and what it should be and what we should engage in as a church. We start to really disagree and argue with one another and have very strong opinions about what it is and how we go about it. So I want to invite you to become more aware of your ideas and your understandings of justice as we move toward Sunday. Who have been your teachers when it comes to ideas about justice, particularly justice as a follower of Jesus? How have you been taught the relationship between justice in a religious sense or a faithful sense or a divine sense, and the difference between that and justice in a secular sense? I think for many of us, we like to put a big wall between those two things, or we separate them out somehow in our minds. But for others of us, they are one and the same. And this, again, is where we can disagree and find a lot of complexity here. So who has been a teacher for you? Where have your experiences brought you up close and personal with matters of justice and injustice, experiences of justice and injustice, places you have longed or felt called to or needed to work for justice in the face of injustice? Where have you run up against somebody who has very different ideas about what that is and what that looks like for you? And so I just invite you to become, again, aware of what stirs up in your heart, in your mind, in your soul around the concepts of justice. What are we called to as a church? What are we called to as Princeton United Methodist Church? What are we called to as people who are living the very lives that we lead? So we're going to dive more into this on Sunday. I look forward to worshiping with you. Know that we are open for in-person worship. If you would like to come, you are welcome to do that. We would love to have you. And we know that for some of you, that is not what you need to be doing right now. I want to invite you and remind you again that we are in, this is a really challenging time for our world as we are in this phase of the pandemic where much is reopening, but there are also places in the world that are deeply troubled, even in the United States, that are deeply hurting still from COVID and the coronavirus. And it's complicated and very challenging. And so I want to name first that we have experienced a collective trauma. And it's tempting for some of us to kind of want to push that to the side or not to acknowledge that that's the case or just want to move straight past it. But I don't think that serves us well. So I want to just name again that we have been through a lot. We have been through it together, but we have all moved through it in different ways, different understandings, different experiences, different levels of anxiety or affective, things. This has affected each of us in different ways. But there is a lot of anxiety in our system right now. And I'm not just talking about our church, I'm talking about the world. And it certainly affects each of us in different ways. Some of us are naturally low anxious people and low anxiety people, and we're just like, not feeling much here. Others of us are high anxiety, and this has increased anxiety for many people. So I invite you to continue to be patient, to continue to be compassionate, to continue to offer a listening ear, a caring ear to those who are around you, to seek to understand what others are going through and how they are experiencing things right now. As you might expect, that given such a situation, there are people who are all across the spectrum when it comes to how they feel about what's happening in worship and what is what you think we should be doing, your opinions about what we are doing, all you name it, and somebody has that opinion or that experience or that need or something. So there are people who are wishing that we could be back to where we were pre-pandemic, where there are no masks and everybody can sing and everybody can gather just the way it was. That isn't our reality right now. But know that there are also people who really think that we shouldn't be open at all. And so we're trying to find this place where we can move collectively through this, giving lots of grace to where different people are, and also doing our best to care for the most vulnerable among us. So that means that we are still requiring masks and we are doing some restrictive things in our worship services so that we can have unvaccinated people among us, like our children. And we know that for some, gathering at all right now is still not something you are able to do. So welcome. You are welcome to come. We hope that you will come and worship with us in person if that is where your needs are, spiritually, physically, risk tolerance wise. If you're able to do that, I hope that you will sign up and come and join us for worship over these next few weeks. If that's not where you are, we're going to continue to offer you high quality live streaming worship. And know too that I ask you to keep having patience with us, keep offering patience, keep offering prayers for us as we continue to work out the technology to do both things well. We were live streaming before the pandemic, but we weren't doing it well. And now we are, and we want to hold that quality both in the service and at home. So we're working on that, and it'll get there. Just continue to pray, to have patience. And if you are gifted in this area, please come share with us. Know that it is a gift to be your pastor. I'm so excited about so many things that are going on. Vacation Bible School is happening this week. We're continuing to explore this partnership with Kingston UMC. There are people going and doing lots of exciting things this summer, and it's wonderful to hear about your plans and your adventures. If that's something you're doing, It is a joy to be on this journey with you. Remember, too, that you are enough because God is enough. Thanks be to God for all of that.